They say some of the greatest success stories are born from failure. And when you look at the world of military aviation, there's maybe no better example of that than the F16 Fighting Falcon. Today, we're going to dive into how a total crisis in the skies actually led to one of the most revolutionary jets the world has ever seen. I mean, just look at the numbers here. They're staggering. Over 4,600 of these jets have been built. They're flown by more than 25 different countries, and it's been in service for over 50 years. Yeah, by any measure you can think of, this thing is an absolute legend. So where did this legend come from? Well, this story of incredible success, it doesn't start with some flash of genius on a drawing board. No, it starts with the near disaster. It starts with American pilots getting shot down time and time again over the jungles of Southeast Asia.
Okay, so to really get the F-16, you have to rewind the clock. We've got to go back to the Vietnam War. This was a conflict that basically took everything the US Air Force thought it knew about air combat and just threw it right out the window.
And the data, well, it tells a pretty stark story. Look at this. In the Korean War, American pilots had a 10-to-1 kill ratio. That's 10 enemy planes down for every one of theirs. Fast forward a decade to Vietnam, and that ratio plummets to just 2.5-to-1. I mean, that's a catastrophic drop. Something was desperately, desperately wrong. So what happened? What went so wrong? Well, the main US fighter at the time was the F-4 Phantom, and it was built on this big, flawed idea that all future air combat would be fought from way out, with missiles. The problem was, in the real world, the missiles were super unreliable. And to make things worse, the early F-4 didn't even have a cannon for close-in dogfights. So you had American pilots getting outturned and just outfought by these smaller, much more agile Soviet MiGs. Now, the Air Force leadership, the top brass, they were pretty slow to react to this. But there was this small group of brilliant and, let's be honest, kind of difficult reformers deep inside the Pentagon. And they saw the writing on the wall. They knew something radical had to change, and fast.
And right at the center of this whole rebellion was a guy named Colonel John Boyd. And let me tell you, this guy was a legend. His nickname was 42nd Boyd because he had this standing bet that he could start behind any pilot in any plane and be on their tail ready to fire in under 40 seconds. And get this, he never, ever lost. He was a completely undefeated aerial duelist, and he was about to change everything.
So what was Boyd's secret? Well, his genius was that he turned aerial combat into math. He and a mathematician came up with something called energy maneuverability theory. It sounds complicated, but here's the gist. A dogfight isn't just about who's got the fastest plane. It's about energy. That's your speed and your altitude. The jet that can gain, lose, and change its energy state faster than its opponent, that's the jet that's gonna win. It's all about who can dance better in the sky. And this quote from Boyd himself just nails it. The jet that wins is not the fastest, but the one that can change its energy state faster than the enemy. See, it wasn't about raw speed, it was about agility. And that one idea totally flipped the script on fighter design, which for decades had been obsessed with one thing: going higher and faster. Boyd said, nope, that's not the answer. Now, Boyd wasn't a one-man show. He gathered this crew of like-minded thinkers, analysts, engineers, who his opponents mockingly called the fighter mafia. And these guys fought a brutal bureaucratic war inside the Pentagon. They were pushing back against the big, heavy, super expensive jets the generals wanted, and instead they were fighting for their vision: a light, cheap, and supremely agile dogfighter. And you know what? Eventually, the fighter mafia actually won. They pushed so hard they forced the Air Force to create a program just to test their wild ideas. It was called the Lightweight Fighter Program, and it basically set up this high-stakes duel pitting two brand new, radical prototypes against each other to decide the future of air combat.
So, in one corner, you had the Northrop YF-17. It was a bit more conventional, with two engines. But in the other corner, you had the General Dynamics YF-16. This thing was basically John Boyd's theory made out of metal. It was lighter, had one massive, powerful engine, and it was just packed with revolutionary stuff like fly-by-wire controls and this crazy reclined pilot seat.
So they flew these two jets head-to-head for months, and after all that intense testing, the winner was just clear. On January 13, 1975, the YF-16 was declared the winner. The test pilots all said the same thing. They loved it. It was faster, it turned tighter, it flew farther, and it was cheaper. It was a complete, total victory for the fighter mafia and their ideas.
But winning that competition, that was really just the beginning. Now we get to the fun part. Let's dive into the absolutely groundbreaking tech that made the F-16 such a game changer. Okay, first big innovation, fly-by-wire. Before the F-16, a pilot's controls were connected to the wings and tail by a bunch of heavy cables and hydraulic pipes. It was all mechanical. The F-16 threw all of that out and replaced it with electrical wires and computers. This made the jet way lighter and incredibly responsive. It was a genuine world first for a production fighter.
And this is where things get really, really wild. The F-16 was designed to be aerodynamically unstable. I know, that sounds insane, right? An unstable plane? But it means the jet is constantly trying to tear itself out of the sky. And that inherent instability is precisely what makes it so mind-blowingly agile. The only thing keeping it flying straight are those fly-by-wire computers, making thousands of tiny corrections every single second. Without them, it would be totally unflyable.
Now, all that agility puts some serious strain on the pilot. We're talking about pulling 9 Gs. That's 9 times the force of gravity crushing your body. So how do you handle that? The solution was genius in its simplicity. They tilted the pilot's seat back at a steep 30-degree angle. This simple tweak helps keep the blood from draining out of the pilot's head during those insane turns, which, is pretty important for not blacking out.
And finally, let's talk about the view. One of the biggest lessons from Vietnam was simple. You can't shoot what you can't see. So the F-16 got this amazing bubble canopy. It's one single piece of plexiglass, no frame in the way, giving the pilot a totally unobstructed 360-degree view of the sky. Because in a dogfight, being able to see everything around you isn't just an advantage, it's the difference between life and death.
So you take all of this revolutionary design philosophy, this brand new technology, it wasn't just for show. It all translated into one of the fastest and most successful rollouts of a new aircraft in military history. It was just incredible. And just look at how fast it happened. The YF-16 wins the competition in January of '75. By the end of '76, less than 2 years later, the first production F-16 is already flying. By '78, it's being delivered to the Air Force. And by '79, just 4 years after that first fly-off, it's already being sent to European allies. I mean, that is an absolutely breakneck pace to go from a prototype to a global powerhouse.
And that really brings us full circle, doesn't it? This whole story started with failure over Vietnam. It was fueled by the rebellion of a few stubborn visionaries in the Pentagon. And the result was this, the F-16 Fighting Falcon. Their radical, crazy idea for a lightweight, affordable, lethal fighter didn't just work. It became the most successful jet of its generation.
So the story of the F-16 really leaves you with a pretty powerful question, right? What happens when a crisis forces you to just throw out the old rules and challenge conventional wisdom? It proves that sometimes the biggest breakthroughs don't come from a perfect plan.
They come from having the courage to look failure right in the eye, learn its lessons, and then build the future.